session. If you go to your session schedule, the session is about protecting against cyber threats to national assets. And this is going to be a fairly free-flowing conversation. We're going to have a lot of, because of the adjustments we have to make in the format, I'm going to encourage you to be as involved as you can, and we'll give you leeway to participate. The topic is very important for us in the scheme of things, because you may have been following the news, and I've been hearing of all kinds of data breaches where hackers have entered into databases, not only of private sector, but of public sector entities. I mean, you know, the U.S. government, federal agencies have been hacked. The last one, the Labor Department, was hacked. You've heard of banks being hacked. You've heard of data companies such as the reputation companies in the U.S. being hacked. And it goes on and on. Essentially, what happens is that there's unauthorized access to data held by these entities. And the question is, why would they be after data? Well, the fact is, data is the new oil. Data is the center of the digital economy, and it is the most important ingredient to making money these days. Traditionally, you've heard of the production, things needed for production, which used to be labor, capital, and land. And then we added information to it. Nowadays, it's data all the way. So much so that the biggest companies, the most important, the most valuable companies these days are the data companies. You know one as Google, Alphabet. You know another one is Facebook. Their entire business proposition is based on processing data and personal data. In the national space, we also have banks of data for various reasons, for various processes. So, for example, we have election data, and the electoral office would have a bank of constituents and a bank of electoral employees, voters, etc. We have in our space, we have the public entities such as the telecommunication companies. They do hold a lot of data. We have the public health service, the hospitals, they have a lot of data. We have the schools holding a lot of data. The point is that as you look at each government entity, you realize the holding of data that goes across the board. And the data is valuable. Data is valuable. Where you have value, then there's always someone willing to use and exploit it. We're going to look at a couple of the areas this morning of national data as national assets, whether it's electoral lists, whether it's telecommunication accounts, even in the public power supply systems. All of these things, You have data that is now machine-to-machine data. You don't see human interaction, but they're absolutely essential for keeping things going. So for example, the public grid, the public power grid, a lot of the controls are automated these days, and it's machine-to-machine communications that keeps them going. That kind of data is absolutely essential to our well-being, and the importance of safeguarding that data is second to none. We're going to look first at public health data. And with me this morning is Mr. Kevin Allen. Kevin is the CEO of the University Hospital of the West Indies. And Kevin is going to give us some insight about the views from the University Hospital on safeguarding patient data. After that, we are going to have a general discussion to look at the other forms of data. Professor Dunn is here. Professor Dunn, you might not know in his own right, has been a data researcher for many years. I know that personally, having worked with him. And so we have some ideas of the kinds of data that are available and why that data might be of interest to external agents for exploitation. So let me turn you over to Kevin. Help me welcome Mr. Allen. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take this opportunity to welcome us all. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Just want to recognize Mr. Carlton Samuels for that introduction, and to recognize Professor Dunn. If you look at your program, I was scheduled to close the batting. You know, as the tail ender, you never normally have technically sound, competent batting skills, but I've been promoted to opening the batting. So here we go. The University Hospital of the West Indies. We have embarked on a project, on a journey to convert the operations of the hospital from a manual system, total paper-based, to one that is, I would say, embedded. We're going to be using information communication technology to drive the hospital functions, the functionalities, and to be more efficient and lean and mean. And with all of that comes the collection of data, the storage of data, the security of the data, who access the data, how we manage it. And so this conference is very timely. So we have to look at it and to see how we're going to manage the situation. So on the slides here, you could see, excuse me, I just want to walk through it. We look at the patient and physician-centric application system. We have partnered with the Faculty of Medical Science, UWI MONA, to procure a end-to-end point system. That is a hospital information management system. We have also looked to do a bit of investment in the network infrastructure. What we also know, and what we have not been sharing with the public, is that we have endpoint modalities: ultrasound, CT scan, MRI, X-ray. All these machines that we are looking at now at the hospital, they are digital machines. And so you can do your studies now, and before you even reach to your physician or reach back, even on the ward, the results are available. And as I said before, we have to look at how we protect patient information. How do we protect all these data that we have been gathering over the last 2 years? Very important. The privacy of the patient information is paramount. How do we ensure that that information does not get in the wrong hands? And so we are looking at growing the ICT team. We have approached the Ministry of Finance and we have outlined to finance our predicament. In a time where the government is cutting salaries, we managed to secure 25 new ICT posts. It's available now. And sorry to be advertising, but just to show you the gravity of what we have found ourselves in and how we plan to manage. So we have to grow the talent pool to ensure that we manage the infrastructure and the data that we are collecting as we move forward. So currently we have 10 applications system running over there, and I won't bore you with these, but we just want to point out to you that we are running 10 systems over there, all in their own right, need to have some sort of protective mechanism and access control as to who has access to what. So we have to also look at unauthorized or how persons access the data. We are struggling. We are a teaching hospital, and this is the dilemma. You have various sections within the facility that use information, and another section that has access to it but does not need to use it. So, for example, the Department of Chairs that deals with HIV, very topical issue, or Department of Psychiatry. The system is open to the clinicians, but a doctor that is in surgery does not necessarily need to access the psychiatry notes. How do we protect against that? I mean, it might be simple, you are IT gurus in the room, I'm nowhere there, but I'm just showing you some of the dynamics that we face. How do we ensure that the family member who is not the next of kin does not gain access to this information? So we have to look at the whole internal control mechanism to ensure that these subtle problems, these subtle challenges that we face, we can deal with it. How do we go protect the data that we have against persons outside of the hospital scope, to ensure that your data is safe once we collect it? So we are exploring all of that, and I will show you as we go further what we are doing, just to ensure that we have some amount of credibility to the system. So data can be accessed through these means, and we all know the smartphone is a portable walking device that everybody have in their possession now. But fax, theft of computers or tablets, phishing, inappropriate storage, these are all areas that we are exposed to, and we have to come up with credible solutions to ensure that we man these situations. So to answer the question, how do we respond? Internally, we are developing policies. The government themselves have put laws in place. We have created and we have sought and we have gotten approval, not a new post, not advertising, for a policy division. And this division is responsible for drafting our policies, for implementing the policies, and to have periodic checks and training to ensure that these risks are minimized as low as possible. Then you have the physical security. We have to look at how we are going to ensure that the physical device that we invest in does not leave the physical location, the hospital itself. And so we have to look at that. The application security, this is one of those areas that we have gotten some strength in. And the network, we have to have strong, robust network at all times, how we manage those, how we manage the redundancy exercise that we have put in place. And one area that most people pays little attention to is actually education. I am sorry, right? It's actually education and training. There must be a program in place for continuous training, continuous development. The industry, as you know it, is not a static industry. It is fluid. It is ever changing, always moving, and we have to invest in the talent and keep it going so that we can be ahead of the curve all the time or most of the time. And then we have to have a system of check and balance so that we know what is happening to the data that we collect and how we go about looking at the weak points to ensure that we plug those gaps and to have some amount of confidence in using the system. So we get into, just to show you a little bit, we'll look at the acceptable use of information policy and how we communicate that to all the users. We have password policies, and we try to say to staff, hey, no matter how you are close friend with a fellow co-worker, don't share your password information. Don't write it down on a bit of paper. Don't write it down in a book. Those kind of things. Don't use your name and your date of birth and stuff as your password, because people can easily guess those. Physical, we're looking at the surveillance, and right now we have a discussion at the institution in terms of the surveillance and the privacy that some patient will need. We know that there are technology out there now, for example, in our intensive care unit that will allow the clinicians to actually monitor the patients using ICT technology with powerful video cameras. And we are looking at whether or not we will have any breaches in terms of the patient's privacy. In other words, the doctor can stay at home and look at a smartphone and actually prescribe some treatment for the patient. But his wife or his kids, if they should look at it, it's actually, or if he is accessing it beside them and they look, it's actually a breach. How do we solve those problems? And we are having those conversations at the university hospital as we speak. Things like session management, we're looking at those things as well. Storage, how do we store the data that we collect and archive and stuff. So we are doing several things, and I just want to share with us, and if through this medium we can also get some brilliant ideas going through, I would welcome those ideas as well. So we continue to look at the whole data security practice with the HIMS. What we want to also look at is the mobile device management. We are doing an experiment now where we have telemedicine, and what we try to do is to have conference with those health facility in deep rural Jamaica. How do we go about transmitting the data? How do we have the conversation on secured line and to ensure that those information, those patient information that we are gathering, that we are providing the consultation to the clinician in the rural parts of Jamaica, how do we secure those data? So we are looking at that. We are constantly looking at our operation to ensure that we are compliant. And one piece of technology that we are also using is radio frequency identification. So we set parameters for each piece of portable equipment. And as you know, if you go outside of those boundaries, then you will get notified one way or the other through the system. So the system is always evolving, as we said before, and we are looking at all of these things. And I mentioned the staff education, which is high for us. And to top it all off, we are also working with our risk management team to ensure that we are at all times trying to be ahead of the game and to ensure that we manage the data as best as possible. What we hope to derive from all of this is an efficient service and one that the citizens of Jamaica and the region can be proud of, one that the students, the medical students, will have access to information at the tip of their finger, and we hope that we will get some competitive advantage from this. No doubt, collecting the data will aid in the teaching, research, and patient care service that we offer at the university hospital. And we hope if we get really good at it, we will not only move from a local, regional situation, but we can become a global healthcare marketplace as well. So that is it in a nutshell, and I will just defer now to the chair as we advance the conversation further. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. So we're going to come sit with us. We're going to start. Maybe we'll start. I'll defer to Professor Dunn to ask a few leading questions, and then we will invite the audience to also pose questions to Kevin. Professor
Yes.
Dunn.
Thank you, Carlton. Morning again, everybody. We are here in a session that is dealing with, as Carlton indicated, protecting against cyber threats to national assets. And we have had apology from Monifa Hewling, and we were expecting and are still expecting Major Clive Davis. But in the meantime, we are very happy to have here with us and presenting Mr. Kevin Allen. And I have a few questions to pose because the goal of this session is to identify and discuss critical national assets and their protection from cybersecurity threats, and to discuss the implications of poorly protected systems in healthcare, electoral, etc. The main concern of the conference is how our critical assets are being safely managed and stored, because the head of these institutions and their staff are the custodians of vital information to do with a whole range of aspects of our lives. And we want to be satisfied that that custodial role is being effectively carried out. As you know, a lot of our networks are online. Our electricity grid is online. Our electoral system is online. The telecoms networks are online. The banking and financial systems, and of course our hospital and health services rely very heavily on these kinds of services. Apart from the mainline major assets that these entities hold, there are other elements that fall into the Internet of Things that can leak data or create risks as well. You spoke about certain kinds of hospital equipment, digital machines and so on, which are now part of that whole network of digital facilities and assets that can lead data. But more broadly and centrally, we are concerned about the safe custody of patient data, now more and more in an electronic space. So one of the first questions I'd like to pose is, how far along is the university hospital in digitizing patient data and allowing for inter-hospital data exchange that will enable someone who is registered as a patient at UWI, but who takes ill in Mandeville and can quickly retrieve that data, but safely in the system? Perhaps you could start with that.
Right. I would say we have started. We are about 30% in collecting the data. The approach that we have taken, we have approximately about I would say we have about 20,000 plus records now that we have online, and we are each day trying to digitize those records. What we have also do is that those patients that are coming into us now, we are not giving them a paper docket. You come, you take your ID card and stuff. Once we verify that you are a true citizen of the country or whatever, then we also give you an ID. So you flash that ID, swipe it, and it will tell us exactly who you are. I'll go a step further. The system also integrates with the insurance companies. So no longer are we asking you if you have insurance card. System will tell us. The information that we have not rolled out the communicating with on a full-time basis with rural hospitals, but we are exploring one such thing. We are partnering with the Ministry of Health. I believe about 3 weeks or so ago, the minister in his own constituency unveiled this plan. So we are going slowly but surely. The university hospital, we are taking this whole approach very seriously, but we are hampered because of the capital constraint.
Yes.
Over the last 10 years, we have received very little support in the capital budget from the university hospital. But what I want to point out is that there's a wind of change in the hospital. We have a lot of younger, and I'm not knocking the seniors now, but we have a lot of young managers coming through. And what you see is that the efforts in running the hospital has increased. The income, projected income, how we project ourselves to the public and stuff. We have some negative things to deal with, but we are dealing with them. But we have seen an increase in the inflow, and that allows us to invest heavily in the ICT section of the hospital. Just to add as well, we have also commenced conversation with the architect to look at a UHWI ICT Center, where we will be looking to make some further investment and also looking to store the data that we collect. We are also partnering with advanced integrated system to ensure that the data that we collect, the expertise is there to help us to manage it and to ensure that we don't have any breach as we go along this journey.
Okay, so just a couple of things out of what you have said, and we soon throw it open to the audience. We know you have a question, but I just wanted to follow up on one aspect you have said. You said the hospital has an ID that it issues, right?
Yes.
Which is unique to the university hospital.
Yes, yes.
So if every hospital issues an ID, then we will have X number of IDs all across, but they don't speak to each other.
Well, what I want to share with us is that this entire project, the government is interested in it. They are monitoring the progress that we are making and the functionality. And if they are impressed and satisfied with the deliverables, then I'm sure they will look to bring on board this system as well.
Yeah. So as it now stands, there's not much of an inter-hospital data exchange
no,
going on.
No.
Okay. All right. If you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think someone was standing to ask.
Yes. Could you say your name and then ask a question, pose a question? Thank you.
Okay, good morning. My name is Lawyer Horton, and my question is, with the introduction of all these technologies, has an information technology audit been conducted? And if not, are there plans to do so? And finally, will the results be made available?
No, we have not. We have not done the audit as yet. We are still in the implementation phase of the project, and when we have completed the audit, I'm sorry, but it will not be made available to the public. It would be for management intervention and to take the necessary corrective action as we try to roll out the system with minimal fuss.
I would like to add to what you said. An IT audit isn't something necessarily to be completed only at the end. You may find it more advantageous to enroll the services of an auditing firm in the middle per se. That may be more cost effective. I also had a colleague a while ago ask about the risk assessment that you have taken in doing so, and especially with regards to, you're in the middle of this, but what would happen if a data breach was to happen as you're in the middle? What provisions have been made? So risk assessment, what happens if a data breach happens now?
Yes, I know a member of my risk team is here, and the risk assessment, I gather, is being done. There are tight controls in the system. If there are any breaches, the relevant expertise is available on hand. It is something that they constantly look at. So I'm not going to sit here as the IT expert, as we have those people on board that is guiding the process on a regular or on a daily basis. I do agree with you that the audit ought not to be done at the end of the rollout, but the check and balance that is there constantly. We have reviews, we have implementation meetings, all of these things are there, the records are there, and as we roll out the system, we will continue to do our check and balances and move it forward. I must say that also we would need an independent view as to what is happening, and so that is being looked at as we speak.
Thank you very much. Next questioner, could you say your name and pose the
Morning,
question?
gentlemen on the panel. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Damian Donaldson, Information Security Consultant and President of ISACA Kingston Chapter. I just want to give a perspective on critical infrastructure. I've spent some time in a previous life working in that area. And I can tell you that one of the big challenges that we face, or that these critical infrastructure providers face, is that many of the systems, or some of the systems, were designed at a time when security was not a high priority. And a number of those legacy systems are still in place in some key areas. I think over the years there has been more attention given and more awareness generated in that space. So I know vendors and the consumers of those services and devices would have been taking efforts to improve security in that regard. But I think that's one of the major challenges that they face. When security patches, for example, come out for those devices, many of which are typically regular computers that are attached to other types of hardware, the manufacturers or the vendors don't recommend or will not support the updating or support those devices or those systems if you patch beyond a certain level. In other words, you have to wait until the vendor certifies you to move to a particular level before you can actually patch those systems and get support. And what the situation that creates is that there's a lag between the time at which a vulnerability may be identified and with which you can fix it, and that is typically much longer than the usual patch cycle in, say, for example, a corporate environment. So that presents a challenge in that regard, and a special kind of vulnerability when it comes to those critical infrastructure systems. Flipping over to the medical side, there was mention made to specialized devices for medical imaging and so on and so forth, and the whole network connectivity thereof. Separate and apart from the network connectivity, a number of these devices have local storage. So you go in to do an ultrasound or some other imaging work, and the images are stored on the device itself, not necessarily in a central place, or even if it is centrally stored, oftentimes it's also locally stored. And then now that brings into question the issue of, okay, how do you manage access to that localized storage on that device? You're now going to have to think about physical security for those devices. And oftentimes in many of our medical institutions, hospitals, and so on, not picking specifically, but generally across the board, the issue of physical security on the hospital premises is one of concern. Several years ago, I think there were, over the years, 2 exposés in the local news media with regards to the state of security at hospitals. And things such as paper records, which we're in the process, as we have heard, of transitioning to digital records. But there's still a number of papers that are out there, and probably that will be the case for some time to come. How is it that we plan to deal with, or how do you plan to deal with some of those issues with regards to the physical security of the devices and those paper records as you move along in the transition to digital and more formalized security and data protection environment?
Right, thank you very much. That's a mouthful. Let me just assure you that we are partnering with international partners, IBM, Cisco, and also local partners to ensure that we ramp up the security at the hospital and how we collect and monitor the situation. On the whole matter of the storage, we have a PACS system, Picture Archive Communication System. We have a PACS manager. We are partnering with Advanced Integrated System. All the data collected through those systems, it is stored locally at a undisclosed location in Jamaica. There's also storage in the Bahamas, and they have also been looking at another location outside of the hurricane belt that they will also have secondary storage. So they are looking at all the aspect of protecting the data as far as possible. And as I said, we have controls in place to help us to manage these processes. One thing that is standing out to me when I am looking at the entire picture is the vulnerability of the hospital to retain the skill sets. We are training the people, we cannot pay them enough. And so once somebody is trained up, it is difficult to keep them with us. But we have been taking the necessary steps to ensure that we protect the data as far as possible.
Thank you, Kevin. Another question from the audience? Yes.
Actually, just a comment, sorry. Good morning. I am the personnel that Mr. Allen made reference to, Cassandra Nicholson, of the University Hospital. So just to reaffirm what Mr. Allen has said, we as part of the risk management team, we are looking actively at securing user data, to speak specifically to some issues that you have raised. Now, as we know, as stated before, we do have a number of technologies, new modern technologies nowadays that are now in the internet or network connected and now have access to our network, thereby would have the potential to allow access to data inside the organization. Now, I noticed that a question came about the security audit of the ICT devices. While we do understand, we suggest, yes, it would have been good to have done it at the start. It's also essential to know that a part of the digitization process, we are bringing on new technology, new equipment online. And we are in the process, while we are developing our HIM system, monitoring and assessing how these new technologies affect and how they work over the networks. Aside from that, I know our IT team is currently reinforcing our networking capability. We're utilizing the typical standard and most trusted technology, of course, access control, user-level controls, multi-level password access, and such alike. So it is not a case that we are waiting at the end to do the audit per se. As we work through the process, as you must realize, this is a new process for us. As we work through digitization, we see how the different equipment, how the different technologies mesh together, and with the assistance of our external developers and our internal team, we are working towards ensuring that we have built in the necessary controls for protection as we go along. Okay.
Thank you. Professor Dunn wants to follow up a question with you, Ms. Risk Officer.
Yes, I don't know if it would be you or Mr. Allen, but I just put the general question. What is the situation relating to the emergency vehicles, right, the ambulances and so on? We know that lives can be saved if certain necessary data are made available on the site of an emergency as early as possible about the patient, etc. How far along are we in equipping and in kind of embedding appropriate data in these emergency vehicles that can allow us to respond in the way that we are expecting?
We are not very far, sir. The hospital is, how it's set out, it's a sprawling setting. What we are trying to do now is to ensure that we have mobile device at various locations across the hospital. So we are looking at the internal functions now. Once we get that right, then we will look to equip the ambulance as well. But we are partnering with a company out of the United States, Ergotron, to look at mobile devices. Because what will happen is that a time will come when we will cease using paper at the hospital. What we are doing now is that we are scanning the dockets. We are going back a year in the dockets, scanning them, trying to get through. We noticed that the doctors don't normally go beyond a year for review, unless it's a special case. We are partnering with a local company now to physically remove all those dockets that we have stored, and they will be stored off-site in a secure environment. And if not in use, then the hospital use a policy. If a docket is inactive for at least 10 years, then we will move that to another area where we destroy those records. But we are digitizing as we go along, and it is hoped that the ambulances that we have in the next year or so, we will get to them. But this is a costly exercise, I must add, and I just want to put out that whilst we are getting some support from the government, financially it's not as strong as what we would like. Yeah. Yeah.
Buying the ambulances and equipment that come with a ready facility that can then make it a lot easier for you to plug it.
Right. So I can only speak for the hospital, and right now we are not buying any ambulances as we speak. So when we reach that bridge to ramp up that service, then sure. What we have done though, it's a policy, is that all equipment that we are buying now must be digital equipment, and so the compatibility to speak to the network and stuff, those are taken into consideration as well. So the ICT guys are now participating in various forums right across the hospital to ensure that they provide the guidance to the clinicians and the users of various devices as to what to buy and to look out for the compatibility. The storage, we have partnered with our local telecom companies, both of them, a primary and a secondary, and that is also in train.
Thank you. Question?
Yes. Thank you for a very informative presentation. You've spoken about local infrastructure capacity for data storage, but the cloud has provided an alternative which is very cost effective. Has the hospital contemplated using the cloud for data storage, and if yes, what would be the implications in terms of security?
Right, thank you very much for that question. We have considered using the cloud, but if you listened earlier, we had limitation with the talent pool that was available to us, and so we partnered with external agencies. We have some data in the cloud as we speak, but it is being managed by an external party. And I'll just give him a plug. Mr. Halsall of Advanced Integrated System is managing, his team of experts is managing that whole process for us. And I know that they also have some consultants from India that is looking and working with them to help us build out the infrastructure and to manage this whole process. So it is basically outsourced to a third party, and that is where we are at now. We know that outsourcing has its advantages and disadvantages, but we need to move the organization forward, and we have to, we made a management decision to outsource that function so that we can move the agenda of the organization.
Yes, thank you. But I think the main concern I had when I posed the question was, what are the security risks of using the cloud as an option for data storage? And it may be a technical question, but I just think that's a very big concern, and it needs to be looked at.
Yes, I'm sure. I don't know, Cassandra, can you assist? Because that is over my head, really.
All right. So I'm getting from what you're saying, you're concerned about just storing our data in the cloud and the risk associated with that. All right. As an IT practitioner, I'm just going to say this, that there is always a risk of your data being accessed anywhere. Reality of it. In the cloud, at some your own office, right at your desk, there's a possibility that it will be accessed. There's always that risk. What we have done, however, to boost our level of confidence in the protection of your data, we have partnered with international standard accepted personnel. So we have used external, we know expectation of providing quality services especially in the health industry area. As we have stated, the plug to AIS, they have a history of working in the health industry. Sorry. So they come as a part of what you see now, a part of their CV, their resume. They come built in. And of course, moving forward with them, even in our own process, we have ensured that through our communication with them, that their partners that they use also provide. Yes, thank you. Right. That the third-party personnel that they are partnering provide this service as a part of the contract agreement.
Thank you. Can we have the next question? Next questioner.
Good morning.
Would you give us your name and interests?
Okay, I am Petagale Oates. And my concern, I first want to ensure I heard you accurately. You mentioned that the data will be stored on one platform, and then after 10 years, it will be moved to somewhere else and destroyed. That's what I heard.
Physical.
Oh, the paper documents.
The dockets.
Okay, so the information will be stored otherwise. Okay.
For medical purposes, we can't destroy the people until 10 years has passed and you have not activated those records, then we can destroy people.
Okay. All right, well, as long as it is being stored electronically, because my concern my concern was that, you know, this would be, I mean, especially for a hospital, I'm thinking that it should be critical historical information, you know, in case, for example, something happens to a family member,
Yes.
another family member comes in years after, you know, this information can be used to treat that person as well. My colleague also had a question, a concern.
I actually had it written down because the University Hospital is a research institution, and the clinical data is absolutely necessary for keeping. I don't know if you know that the University Hospital has the richest lifestyle database in the world. We have more than 60 years of data. So all the data about diabetes, kwashiorkor, all of that data is absolutely the best in the world right now. I went to a forum a couple of years ago when I was still active in university at the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. And the director came up to me, and what he was interested in was having access to our data because they should know so much about it. But the problem we have is most of the data we still have is on hard copy. It is analog, and what we need is a real focus exercise to get all that data digitized so that we make available. But I can tell you right now, if Professor Forrester was here or Marvin Reed, Professor Reed, they would tell you that there is still a lot to begin from looking at that data. We have a massive store of that kind of data, best in the world. Yes.
Sorry, my question was about the redundancies. You said locally, another Caribbean country, and then somewhere else in the world. How do we ensure that our data is protected at these points? Because if it's not in our country, does it still remain in our jurisdiction? And secondly, with all of the different breaches that we've seen, I've heard about inappropriate access, but what about ransomware and not having the access when you need it?
So in engaging advanced integrated system, you would have those things built into the contract. How you go about managing those situations, and to ensure that the persons that they are partnering with in managing our data, that we also have them sign confidentiality clause and stuff like that on behalf of the hospital. That is what we did and how we manage those things. Guys, I must confess, my strength is finance / accounting. So I cannot speak to some of these technical things that you're about to ask. So I don't know if Cassandra can assist us.
Sorry. So just about redundancies, as you have noticed, Mr. Allen stated that we do have, basically what we have are multiple data farms. So redundancies would be built in there. Because if you even say you have a ransomware that locks access to data at one point, we do have our similar data that is stored elsewhere that we can now bring online while as it's necessary to solve the situation.
Can we have the next question?
With jurisdiction, our data farms are basically in similar Caribbean in the region, as we said, in Bahamas in region. So the jurisdiction is essentially similar to what is our own, because it's a regional situation. And also, as we have seen coming out of the conference there, based on the requirements for GDPR, you do realize that what you have now is some sort of, I would describe it as a coalescing of data
Protection.
privacy and protection acts worldwide. So in essence, the situation is taking care of itself and resolving itself as we go along, in essence.
Damian Donaldson again. This question basically is with regards to the situation in which we've been told is that, for example, the UA Hospital, where they're leveraging partners that have our data in different geographical locations, not just in Jamaica. We've talked about cloud, using cloud for data storage and so on. And my concern is that from a critical infrastructure standpoint, and not just limiting to the healthcare sector, but to the other critical infrastructure facilities, what is the view, or what is the view on the involvement, or where are the regulators in terms of their mindset as regards to setting standards or regulations regarding the involvement of third parties, the involvement of or the movement of data or aspects of those services outside of the local jurisdiction, in the context that, I mean, this is our nation's critical infrastructure, and there are potential concerns for national security, et cetera, et cetera. What's the role of the regulator? What is the view of the regulators, and from a legal perspective and a government perspective? How much involvement or how much of a say have they had in some of these decisions to partner with persons outside the jurisdiction?
Right now, the legal framework doesn't really exist for intervention of the state in those kinds of arrangements. It's generally, there's some general laws that, for example, in telecommunications, there's an availability requirement that compels the provider to have the service available for a specific time. And the regulator, in this case the OUR, can intervene under that general requirement. But the data protection law is just in process right now that will give a stronger voice to the regulators, how that will happen. I have a colleague here. I see Amina McNoon over there. Amina, I've worked with Amina for a little while. She's been in the financial services regulation, and maybe you could add a word to this about the regulatory view of data management in the financial sector. Amina, would you?
Yeah. But okay, so she's coming along. I'd like to offer a comment afterwards on that question.
Well, thank you, Carlton. I think that the data protection law is very important, because that would put in place the standards that would apply across the board and across different industries. At the moment, what we have are certain industries which are naturally subject to heightened regulation, like financial services, where in those particular legislations, there are certain provisions in there which allow the regulators a certain measure of oversight into their regulated entities, but even that is very limited in scope, because these legislations were drafted some time ago, and even with the amendments that have taken place, they're still not really up to date with where ICT is now. So, so really and truly, the need for an all-encompassing legislation that would apply to all entities, which would enable regulators in those different industries to have that necessary oversight, is really crucial right now. And one thing that came to mind, actually, listening to the discussions, is the issue of employee integrity. In other areas, such as financial services, because they're subjected to the anti-money laundering regime, there's a requirement for institutions to have employee integrity policies and procedures in place, which essentially means that you're not only careful about the persons that you take on to work in those industries, but that you have policies in place which enables you to monitor them in terms of their income, their assets, their lifestyle, so that if anything comes up which would indicate that perhaps they are involved in some kind of nefarious activity, you have at least some method of picking that up. And I wondered if that is something that needs to be looked at in terms of persons who are employed in the ICT sector, having regard to the fact that data is comes at such a premium nowadays, and the persons who are working in ICT are potentially very dangerous individuals. So maybe, I just wonder if that's something that's been considered, the whole issue of employee integrity in the ICT sector.
Thank you, Amin. Thank you so much for the intervention, and that's a very provocative question, employee integrity. And I know ICT people don't want to see themselves as scoundrels, but as you know, it's inside the fence where you are at greatest risk.
Yes.
Not outside.
Yes, I just wanted to, perhaps we'll come back to Mr. Allen as well, but I just wanted to underline that question about employee integrity and managing the people, training and ensuring that certain standards are met. In the case of the University Hospital, perhaps uniquely among our hospitals, we have students and we have interns. I think the interns would go across, but we have a good substantial number of students, which, without impugning the integrity of any student, but just broadly speaking, would perhaps spread the risk a bit in relation to access and the... Okay, all right. So you perhaps could give a response to that, but I'm just framing it as part of the risk context text that we would need to address, in the staff training that you referred to, and in the broader question of staff integrity. But before we come back to you on a response of that sort, I just wanted to kind of remind us that what has been happening over the last decade, perhaps more, is that many critical assets that used to be held in the public sector have been divested into the private sector. And so we have a mix of public and private sector control of many of these critical assets. And we don't have regulations that go right across these entities as a way of ensuring that we have some kind of uniform response to this situation. We had a scenario about 10 years ago in which the electoral office began to develop ideas about selling the voter rolls, marketing the electoral list in a way that persons became concerned about. It became an issue in the press, and I believe it eventually was discontinued. But the mere fact that a director of election could think about doing that, it's very tempting because you have a pretty massive, valuable data set. But that's not why we gave them our information. And therefore, that kind of usage would not be appropriate. And so those are some of the issues that would be addressed were we having some kind of regulation across the board that would enable us to maintain standards of the kind that we have heard referred to.
Yes, sir. State your name and
Good
ask
morning.
your question.
My name is Courtney Morgan, and I'm from the Auditor General's Department. Just referring to your presentation, you alluded to 25 new IT posts being introduced at the hospital. Due to the fact that the hospital is in the healthcare sector, that's their core business, wouldn't you think it would be prudent to outsource this service to competent third parties to provide this service? This would also help to reduce the attrition problem that you also alluded to in your presentation. And secondly, I just think it is unfortunate that the members from MSTEM and eGov is not here today, because I think they would be in a better position to provide a government approach in combating this cybersecurity issue that we're facing today. That's my question.
Yes, just to just follow up with that, is that we looked at outsourcing and we took a management decision that we will rather to manage the whole process in-house. Just to add and just to let it know that the HIMS system is not owned by the university hospital. It is an asset of the University of the West Indies, and it also is supposed to be used to enhance the product that the Faculty of the Medical Sciences offer. So there is some amount of management that is going to be taking place there as well. So if I choose to mislead you a bit, as if the system is owned by the hospital, just to clear it up, it is owned by the University of the West Indies. All right.
As I was aware of that. But as a management issue, you're the CIO. The data that is in the system is actually yours for ownership. Upton made the last gentleman, before I get to Upton, made a comment about the no-show from the eGov, and yes, I apologize for that. As we said earlier, we were expecting MonaMedia to be here to talk about the CERT. As you know, what has happened is that the government has moved fairly quickly in this case to set up a computer incident response, cyber incident response system and team, and MonaMedia is leading that team. Essentially, what has happened is that they have codified what should happen, what are the processes and procedures that should happen, that you should follow in the event of a data breach. And this is not just for the public sector, but also for the private sector. So it's a national cyber incident response team that is set up. I know some about it. I've involved in it at some point. But it would have been good for MonaMedia to be here to get into the details of it. So we accept that it is one whole in this session, and we would not have filled it adequately, given that the details about what the CERT does and how it works, we had left that to MonaMedia to come to this with. In respect of eGov, as you probably know, but eGov is the cloud service provider for the government of Jamaica. So most of the financial systems, the accountant general, the auditor general systems, all of the income generating systems used by the customs and the passport agency, all of those systems are managed by the eGov Jamaica, and they offer them as services to the passport agents, to the customs, and accountant general, and so on. So yes, there is a whole deep investment by the government of Jamaica in platforms, operating support platforms that are owned and managed by eGov Jamaica, and they deliver them as service to the various government entities, especially the revenue producing entities in the government. Again, if they were here, they could get into a lot of details as what those are and so on. I know a little bit about them, having some experience in supporting them over years. But it would have been good if they were here to deliver it. Now, to Upton, you had a question about the employee integrity, and you look at it as maybe it needs a holistic approach as part of the whole regulatory framework. You spoke about the attempt at one point to sell electoral lists, and you're recognizing, I guess, in that sense, that given the accumulation of data from the various entities, whether it's the telecommunications or it's the health services, the data accreted becomes valuable. And you also made the point that because we now have public-private separations, for example, the telecoms data is entirely private, but and the only thing that's actually have some kind of oversight of telecommunications regime is the regulator, the Office of Utilities Regulation, and even then, as Amina pointed out, those are very weak at the minute. There actually is now a new ICT Act that is supposed to strengthen the regulator. It's under consideration, and we should tell you that it is recognized, just like Upton says, that we need an overarching kind of legal framework that will enable us to put in the kind of employee integrity employee integrity requirements and standards into it. But that is coming, and it is something that is recognized as open. And one of the things I brought it up is for when you see these bills introduced in the Parliament, it is in your interest to attend the public sessions and voice your concerns. You should not take the position that you're not an expert and you don't know. Anisha is a lawyer, but she got up and asked about the impact and implications for cloud data and the movement of data. Somebody else asked about the jurisdictional reach and so on. So people are putting things together. And what we are encouraging you to do is to continue to participate and ask questions. Don't hold back because you think you're not a subject matter expert. You have practical questions, practical concerns that when you bring it to the public domain, then others are forced to answer it in a way that makes sense to you. So I would encourage you to continue to participate. Upton.
Yes. Thank you, Carlton. We're pretty much at the end of what time is allocated for this session. But I do want to say, to continue with the remark you're making, that not just employee education and staff education, but public education is very important by all the entities that are involved in providing public services. We need to know how our data are being protected and also what we can do to protect ourselves, and that you are doing the best you can to lift us to the world-class standards that we expect and that this conference has been, over successive years, been calling for in whatever sector. So I think that public education, which is part of the purpose of this conference, needs to be driven and continued by these entities. I want to thank Mr. Allen. Although you deferred to your technical specialist, I thought you were doing very well. And I want to invite us to thank him because almost inadvertently he bore the brunt of the questioning, and he stood up to the questioning and dealt with the matter. His batting skills at the crease were actually commendable. So let us thank him again. We thank you, Chair, and we are going to be ending this session. It's actually time for the coffee break. We assemble again at 11 o'clock when we will start the roundtable on the needs. Thank you all for your
I love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and move about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
I can carry it anyway?
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
I love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and move about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
I can carry it anyway.
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
I love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and move about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
I can carry it anyway.
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
I can carry it anyway.
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
I love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
I can carry it anyway.
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and move about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
We can carry it anyway.
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
I love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and move about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
We can carry it anyway.
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
I can carry it anyway.
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
I love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
I can carry it anyway.
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and move about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
I can carry it anyway.
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
I love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and move about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup.
I can carry it anyway.
That's right.
So it only does this?
No.
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
The best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now?
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup. Look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and move about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup,
I can carry it anyway.
that's right.
So it only does this?
No,
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
the best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now.
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup, look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
I love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to apply now.
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel, with the option of being billed and paid in US or Jamaican dollars, and all the travel benefits you could want. The NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel will be your ticket to life. Sign up today and move about the world with ease.
I don't have any cash.
No problem.
What's this?
This is your never miss a sale anywhere, anytime, very secure, accepts debit and credit cards device.
So we can use it?
Yup,
I can carry it anyway.
that's right.
So it only does this?
No,
You can also do this.
Is it safe?
the best EMV chip technology.
Nice. Honey, how about this one?
So we can accept US and key card now.
Absolutely.
Can I see how much money the drivers collect?
Yup, look at your tablet.
So I can see real-time transactions?
Yup. Even out there. In short, it's your NCB mobile card machine. Never miss a sale anywhere, anytime. Get yours today.
love what I do.
And that's why I have an NCB Business Edge card.
So I can always be in control of my expenses and get great rewards too.
I need the edge to ensure that I give it my all every day.
Whether it's utilities, restocking, or tax payments, your NCB Business Edge gives you up to 55 days interest-free financing so that you can have the freedom to be everything your business needs you to be. NCB Business Edge. Go to jncb.com to...
We know you're busy, living life to the fullest, soaking up all the world has to offer. And while you're out and about, you deserve a credit card that can keep up with you. Introducing the NCB MasterCard Platinum Travel with the option of being
Still expecting Gary Allen to join us, but we are cognizant of the time and will proceed. We are very happy that so many of you have joined us. This is an issue of national importance. It is something that has engaged the attention of our political system, our political leaders, even our court. We are very happy that today, this morning, we have Mr. Julian Robinson, MP, Opposition Spokesman on Science and Technology, Ms. Judith Wedderburn, who will be representing or speaking from the angle of civil society. And as I've said, we are expecting Gary, but the person who is going to be leading us off, it's just a contextual framework, is Mr. Carlton Samuels. You've heard from him already in the course of the day. He's going to be making some preliminary remarks. Before he does, I just want to put up one map on the screen, if I might. You know, no, this is not blue wave and red wave. This is a map that purports to be in red countries with compulsory ID systems, and in blue countries with non-compulsory ID systems, or ID systems that are more dispersed and liberally managed. Right? It would seem to suggest that a substantial number of countries are already having compulsory ID systems, and several other countries either do not or are in a gray area. Just for thought and reflection as part of the context within which we are going to have these conversations, because none of these conversations in Jamaica take place in isolation from what is happening globally, and we have to take that into account. One of the central issues in all of these countries, including India, was how are these systems being implemented? Not just whether you have the system, but how are they being implemented? How secure are the data being held and managed? And how intrusive are the demands in biometric terms that are being expected from persons subscribing to these ID systems. So that is part of the framework within which we are going to be looking at this. And without further ado, I want to ask Carlton now to come and give some preliminary thoughts on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dunn. I'm going to go through quickly here. My job at this minute is to set a framework for the national identification system, and I'm going to use some slides to guide me along. So, you know, it's called NIDS, for short, National Identification System. I call the slogan from the program. It's one ID, many opportunities. So that is the primary document for verifying a person's identity. Notice that's primary document for verifying. That's what the NIC, that is the card, National Identification Card, is supposed to do. And it has the benefit of authentication for digital services and non-digital, because it has an electronic consistency that would be useful for electronic identification, online identification, and it also has a digital signature attached to it. So we tend to think about why we need to have this ID card, and it is the basis for the digital economy and for the information society. We want to create a modern, secure civil registry which public services can be delivered, modernized identity document, and that is to eliminate, as far as possible, fraud. There's some instance of increasing trust in identity. And again, because of the nature of work and the nature of economies these days, digital economy, future-proof platform for data sharing and for delivery of public services. We talk about the accumulation of data by these systems, and this one no doubt will have that as an outcome. It will create a hub for the modern digital economy. The risk for identification fraud is lower, and you need to have a guarantee. Most of you spoke this morning about having the surety that your data is kept secure, and also in exchanging the data between entities, that is also kept secure, and it meets the conditions for data protection, which is to say that there's some measure of consent. The problem that we have is trust is ever changing, and we have to trust, but in order to trust, we have to verify. So we have lots of ID systems, and what we're trying to move towards is from the two-factor authentication of identity, which is something you possess, something you know, to one in which something you are. If you hear to talk about three-factor identification, authentication of identity, first one is about knowledge, second one about possession, third one about something you are. The first one is like a password, knowledge. Second one is possession, like a token. And the third one is something you are, such as something uniquely yours. Fingerprints, ID, generally referred as biometric. So that's what we want to move towards. We want to move toward identification where you are who you are, and we know you are who you are. That's a notation from the GSM Association that explains a little bit more about authentication of identity. Two-factor, three-factor identity, I just explained that to you. The good thing is that if you see the middle there, something I have, something I am, you can locally verify. When you are elsewhere, then something you are becomes more important. And you'll see that coming up over again in everything you do these days, everything from passports to driver's licenses, so on. These are coming on stream. So, governance. There is going to be established an authority, National Identification and Registration Authority. It will sit in the office of the Prime Minister, under the auspices of the office of the Prime Minister. It will include two entities, the Registrar General's Department, which is a civil registry, and you have the National Identity Management. The NERA is going to be comprised of a board of 19 members. There's going to be a CEO for NERA, and then you have deputy CEOs looking at both sides of it, the civil registration side of the RGD, and then the identity management side of NERA will also have. They're trying to do this in a very transparent way, but it starts, all security starts at the top. So all the board members and staff of NERA will be vetted to ensure compliance. And this morning in the earlier session you heard about employee integrity. This is one big aspect of the NIDS program. Employee integrity is going to be a big aspect of that as a part of the security focus of it. So some principles, governance and operational principles of NERA. Separation of interests, separation of the policy creation side from the implementation and operations. You have consent to access personal data. There's transparency and inclusiveness. There's going to be accountability. Notice that there's going to be very severe fines and sanctions for breaches of the database and the operations. And the operation is intended to meet global standards, first-class global standards. Security arrangements is deep. It's secure by design. So you have security at the architectural level, that is at the level of the platform. And I don't know if you know PKI, public key infrastructure, is going to be the implementation that governs at that level. They will have air gap systems. So for example, not all of it is going to be internet aware. So where the databases are kept, they're going to be what we call nearline, not online, not all the time. They're going to be air gap. So there's a disconnect between the heart of the system where the databases are kept and the internet and any network connection. The process level, you're going to have controls, a lot of controls built into the process. So there's separation of actors. So for example, the person who prints the card is not related to the person who hands out the card. The person who distributes the card is a totally separate person. They are required to log in all the time. Every action is logged. There are separate requirements for access to the data. All of that is going to be involved. So there are lots of process controls at the process level. And that includes the development of the system as well as the operational processes. So people handing out cards, people accepting identification. For example, there is a difference, major difference between verification of data and the validation of data in the system. It is built into the system. We're looking at blockchain for technology for logging access to the system. So every time there is any access, the logs are written into these distributed databases. That gives you some aspect of transparency, so you can see what is happening in the database. You won't be able to get to the data, but you of course see who is getting to the data, what the data is being used for, and so on. That is blockchain logging. You see, at the user level, we already spoke about the three-factor implementation for access and accessing. So, for example, all the persons who will be working on the system will be using three-factor identification to authentication to access the system. So they have to have password, and they have to have knowledge and adherence, some kind of adherence piece, whether it is an iris scan or a fingerprint, etc. All of those things. And then there's going to be user audits. The system is going to be designed so that it is constantly audited. Every time there is access to certain parts of the system, there's going to be login, and you can set alarms on the data interfaces to tell you who is accessing and for what purpose. So the security arrangements are really tight. They're pervasive. They're at all levels of the system, and it is intended to provide a closely held and monitored system as possible, because we are not supposing that the system cannot be breached, but understand that in the event of a breach, it will be known by many actors in real time. So the roles and the opportunities. I'll go through the roles that were intended for the system. And first one is identification, as you see there. Second one is authentication, and of course the digital signature. So that one card provide these three functions. And then you want to shift, and these are aspirations now. These are aspirations for the system. So you want to shift from high risk to low risk digital IDs. And you do it by using the three-factor authentication. So you have knowledge, possession, and authentication for every time you use a system. It reduces fraud, you have greater confidence in identity, and so on. You could have, out of that is going to develop the certificate authorization process. In the digital world, a lot of times for authentication and confidence, we provide what are called digital certificates. And when you have a national identification system, that becomes a core for developing a local certificate authority, so that you can deliver security certificates to other entities that might be engaging in other areas of public life, as well as private systems. It enables us to develop and sustain a national cybersecurity awareness campaign. That is what the national identification system will enable, and it will empower us to do that all the time. And again, the National Certification Authority is going to be very critical to developing and ensuring a security of lots of more digital assets in the region and the country. There's one thing that you should know. All of this is enabling other actors in going online and becoming engaged in the digital economy. That's very important of part of the aspirations for the system. So there are some opportunities that will grow out of having this system, and they're online onboarding. That is to say that when you want to hire somebody or you want to move somebody into an organization, you can do a lot of that online. You can get them involved much earlier than you could do face-to-face process. contracts online. This is a good use of the system. You know that one of the major requirements of contracts is should be able to identify the person who's going party to the contract. And with a digital ID that is secure and safe, you make this kind of development much more readily available. Biometric authentication, that is again to say 100% identification as far as possible. That is using some of your adherence features, whether it is iris or fingerprints or so on. Financial inclusion, that's a big one. You would have noticed, for example, that there's been development in recent times of digital money, mobile money, and you know of, for example, Bitcoin. You've heard of Bitcoin. I'm sure you have heard of a lot of these financial systems that are entirely virtual. One of the issues we have is that even in Jamaica today, the people who don't have bank accounts or access to bank accounts is quite a significant amount of our citizens, and they're left out of the system. Government has been trying for many years to figure out how to get more people involved. This is one of the areas. If you have digital identification, then maybe mobile money and some of those issues, some of those digital asset movements that we're developing over time will become even more accessible and with greater confidence because of having the digital identification. And so you have end-to-end security. We can then implement end-to-end security. That is to say, of the transaction, of the digital transaction. So all in all, you have all of these benefits that will inure to all of us. Enterprise data sharing. And notice that there's consent required to share data here because data protection. By the way, NERA is not exempt from the Data Protection Act as we speak. From Data Protection Bill, there's no exemption for NERA under the law as it stands now. You can build out a whole set of relationships that shares data and make more of these transactions that we have smoother and more efficient. That's a big one. If you're in the school system, for example, and have to deal with path, that's one of the things that we struggle with every beginning of each school year, managing path beneficiaries and how we do that. And biggest problem we have is identification. That is a big one, at least for those of us who are involved in management, school management. It's important. This is another one there, National Standardized Address Database. For a long time, if you speak to Sonia Jackson, who used to be at Staten, Director General, a friend of mine, she's been talking about a population database for as long as I've known Sonia. And part of the problem that we have is that our addressing schemes are, Sonia was a tiki-tiki. You know, 200 people live in a big yard, and they are supposed to have individual addresses, and individual address is a door across a fence. And it's very difficult for you, even in terms of developing national statistics, to link addresses. One of the big things for electoral work, for example, is addressing. It's very critical to electoral lists because you use addresses to determine the size of constituencies and so on. And the better we are at having addresses and having a uniform way to list and manage addresses, the better it is for us for a lot of things. Notice that you don't have to have personal information involved in the database because you would collate addresses with the land where it is. So you have National Land Agency, for example, have a lot of digital maps of lands where you have the folio and you know, the way that they describe lands. And then you can link that folio and title to a specific place on a street. And these things are still required to make those work well. So all in all, you see the benefits that would come from NIDS. It involves, first of all, capturing data about you. It involves capturing data that can determine that you are who you are. That is biometric data. It involves storing that data securely and making sure that it is available when needed. It involves making sure that the access to that data is properly and effectively managed. It ensures that we use the data for purposes that will transform our interactions with government, private interactions, and in terms of business transactions and so on. That is a framework from which we will begin to discuss the other issues. Thank you very much.
Okay. So thank you very much, Mr. Samuels, for that overview. I think it's perhaps the first time that some of us are hearing about some of the back office and technical kinds of provisions that are at least contemplated, and some of the relationships and safeguards that are meant to be in the system. Of course, Carlton shared with us the benefits, and we haven't yet explored some of the other aspects that might need to be considered on the other side of the ledger. So the conversation continues. To help us continue that conversation, I now want to invite Mr. Julian Robinson, MP, Opposition Spokesman on Science and Technology, General Secretary of the People's National Party, to make his presentation. Can we welcome him, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to you all. In addressing this topic of evaluating national ID systems and protecting the data collected, we must first be clear on the criteria on which we are required to evaluate national ID systems. Is there a universal set of criteria that all such systems can be fairly said to be required to meet? I submit that a fair attempt to identify any such criteria would likely yield the following attributes. 1, allowing for precise, accurate, and unique identification. 2, eliminating the possibility of identity duplication, falsification, or at least making both of these extremely difficult. And 3, making the means of identification easily accessible, both in terms of cost and the number of steps required to acquire such means. In the course of evaluating a national identification system, the specific context of each country has to be considered. It is not a one-size-fits-all. What is good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander. More to the point, the fact that a system works well in one country does not automatically mean that a system will work well in another. Under our Constitution's Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, which were introduced in 2001 to replace the pre-existing fundamental rights and freedoms in the Constitution, the data that a national ID system would capture engages the constitutional right to security of the person, privacy, and property. Persons have a proprietary interest not just in their own bodies, but they also have a proprietary interest in information about themselves. Both these proprietary interests are covered by the right to privacy. It therefore behooves the state to acknowledge and respect the constitutional dimension of any data that it collects and stores on persons pursuant to a national ID system. In evaluating a national ID system, one must first understand the ideological and constitutional context. Only on that basis can one properly go on to consider whether the objectives that can be considered common to all such systems are met by a given system's particular configuration. With that said, it is incontestable that some amount of data will be needed to be collected and stored in order for a national ID system to meet the common objectives, and those are precision, accuracy, reliability, and integrity. But once the starting point is the firm understanding by those who will collect and store the data that the data do not belong to them and that they are therefore mere custodians of those data, it becomes apparent that the moral obligation on the collectors and storers is to collect and store as little data as is needed to meet the objectives of a national ID system. The more the state collects, the more the state will be responsible for. It follows that if the state's capacity to adequately store and secure data is limited, the amount of data the state collects and seeks to store must be also limited. It goes without saying that in this day and age, the data that a national ID system collects will be in digital form. The technology available today is way ahead of what it was 20 years ago. This fact has exponentially increased efficiency and convenience, but has also correspondingly proliferated the attendant risks to data subjects. Many advanced nations have recognized this and appropriately responded with suitable legislative frameworks. A case in point is the EU's GDPR, which came into effect across the European Union on May 25th of this year. The GDPR squarely puts data subjects in the driver's seat in respect of what its very language acknowledges as their data, which is their own property. Under the GDPR, data controllers and processors have to walk a tightrope to protect people's data. Data breaches attract cripplingly large and therefore dissuasive fines, separate and apart from the duty of controllers and our processors to directly compensate aggrieved data subjects. Most of us would have probably seen the intent of the EU to propose a fine on Facebook based on their failure to protect the personal data it holds on EU citizens and residents. And it was a percentage of their global revenue. The point is that the focus of a discussion on data protection should not be on the specifics of the technological solution. Those in use today will literally be obsolete tomorrow, a fact which makes it virtually impossible for us to keep up. The bottom line is that there's no system that is perfect, and the people who administer the system are as human or as fallible as anyone else. The key question is there a suitably robust framework for deterring the very probable carelessness with people's data that carries the very real prospect of putting them at untold risk. Risks that mutate almost by the minute, therefore making the cure nearly impossible and putting prevention almost in a difficult position. Bringing this home to Jamaica, at this point we do not have data protection legislation on our books. The bill for the Data Protection Act has been stuck in a joint select committee of Parliament, which had its last meeting in March of this year and has seemingly fallen off the radar. It is therefore incumbent on those responsible to prioritize it and to ensure that the bill is passed. Only then we will have a suitable foundation for the design of a proportionate and constitutional national ID system, which there is no denying that the country is direly in need of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those. Thank you very much for those remarks, Mr. Robinson. Clearly, I don't hear an opposition to the idea of an identification system. I hear a call for the principles to be clarified and to be underpinned by appropriate legislative and legal provisions, and a recognition that we are in a rapidly changing environment, among others. I'm sure you're making your own notes and comments, because as soon as we are through with our panel, and we still have one panel presenter, then we are going to be engaging in the discussion from the microphones. We're going to be asking now Ms. Judith Wedderburn to come and make her presentation, speaking from the point of view of civil society. Can we welcome?
Thank you, Professor Dunn. I would first like to thank the Mona ICT Policy Center for actually having the confidence to ask me to make this presentation. So I'm going to give it my best shot. And I'd also like to acknowledge the panelists and to thank you all for coming here today, and I guess yesterday, because the more I read about this NIDS and the NIDS and the NIN, the more it affirmed for me how difficult a situation we will be in if it doesn't work. Let us just put it that way, taking all the things into consideration that you will have heard yesterday and this morning. I am a civil society representative, and how we work is that I will have consulted several of my colleagues who I know share similar concerns and who in their own way are following the discourse, some at greater depth than others, but we have some common concerns. So I would ask for the first slide, please. So, as often happens, I am using a human rights framework. In the discussions that I've heard on many occasions, I very rarely hear mention about the human rights that may or may not be breached as the NIDS unfolds and is implemented. I also want to bring to our attention that in, that now in 2018, no, I'm fine. I want to look at it. I'm good. In 2018, in this period, in this month, those 5 seminal human rights initiatives, declarations, agreements are being celebrated. I bring your attention to the last one. How many people knew that the very first Declaration of the Rights of Negro Peoples of the World was declared by Marcus Garvey in 1920? That's 99 years ago. That's almost 100 years. The more popular known one, I hope, is that the 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights takes place on December the 10th, which is, what, 2 weeks away? So that's the context. So we are certainly aware that that's the foundation on which many of our human rights are created. Next slide, please. So this is the year in which the Jamaican Parliament passed this act. And it resonates with me very strongly that this act was passed without the support or the guidance of a National Data Protection Act. I don't quite understand how that happens, but I would have thought we would want to be secure in our understanding of what a Data Protection Act assures. Because that is what I know we have to have confidentiality and confidence in that act in respect of the NIDS and the NIN. So it is a good time to evaluate the national identification systems and the proposals for protecting the data that is collected. I am hoping and expecting that after a meeting like this, that we will be inclined and we will advocate for the concerns to be addressed openly and transparently, about any breaches of the rights of citizens as enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, large sections of which have informed our own Constitution. So a question we might want to ask, if there are breaches, are they justifiable? Because we do need a NIDS, as explained by Mr. Samuels and Mr. Robinson, that is effective, that is secure, and that serves the needs of the population of Jamaica. Next slide, please. Mr. Robinson made reference to our Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, and I just wanted to point out that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the principles have been incorporated into the constitutions of many countries, including ours, making it constitutional law. Next. So, I have chosen a few of the rights identified, not only a few, and I'm asking some questions. So, Constitution speaks to the right of every child who is a citizen of Jamaica to a public educational institution at the pre-primary and primary levels. The NIDS document that I read online that said pass, so it passed, right? This is what is the law. Part 7 speaks to the facilitation of delivery of goods or services from a public body. Now, I'm sure somewhere there is a definition of what is a public body. But the NIDS website tells us that without your NIN or your NIC, you will not be able to do business with any government entity. The NIN, the NIN and the NIC will be the only identification required for most transactions. Does that apply to our children being able to access education if for some reason they don't have their NID? Question for you to consider. Next slide. Public hospitals, in my estimation, are public bodies providing health services. But access to general medical services in public clinics and hospitals will require a NIC, the card, sorry, with the number. However, in cases of life-threatening events, individuals will not be denied services in the absence of the card. My question, why risk loss of life while criteria for treatment is being determined? The burden of decision then lies with the medical personnel rather than protection of the right to emergency services under the law in the first place. For you to consider. Next. The Constitution states that we have the right to equitable and humane treatment by any public authority in the exercise of any function. So, without your card, will you not be able to do business? You will not be able to do business with any government entity. For example, the Passport and Immigration Office. Will you be faced with the denial of access to a passport? No, go back. One last thing. So, is this not a breach? I'm throwing it out. Is this equitable treatment if all the other criteria are met for accessing a passport? Because you know there are many, right? Next slide. Disclaimer, thank you. So, in the first schedule, there is a clear role for the Governor General, on the advice of the Prime Minister and leader of the opposition, to select, appoint the appointed members of the board. The appointed members of the board shall be appointed by the GG. You know, in these legal documents, when it says shall, what it means? It must, right? No doubt. So that's fine. But then further down, I'm seeking clarification about what is stated about the role and opinion of the minister in verifying fit and proper persons. Anybody here ever have to go on a board and fill out those forms? No? So you know what it involves, right? So there's a reference to the role for the minister in verifying fit and proper persons and in temporary appointments to the board. Now, I think we may have a little concern about those kinds of things, right? In today's Jamaica. For you to consider. Next. I welcome this, sorry, Mr. Robinson, ineligibility for appointment. Any former members of Parliament, any senators, or former members of a municipality. That's a very good idea, I think. Up for discussion. There is a clear reference to ex officio members on the board who represent a total of 19 board members whose input into the function of the authority is important. They range from PICA, the Ministry of Health, RGD, 19, which tells me, demonstrate the multiple areas of the lives of Jamaican citizens that the entire process will impact. Because those are many of the organizations from which data will have to be extracted. And therefore, there are long-term benefits that we can expect from the ability of the system to pull all of that information as required under the law and have them in a central place, digital or otherwise, that is secure and protected. So that is a benefit. Yes, next. No, Mr. Allen is not here, and I'm sure he would do this particular concern of mine greater justice than I. We have a constitutional right to freedom of expression. The right to seek, receive, distribute, or disseminate information, opinions, and ideas through any media. I argue that the exercise of these rights are central to freedom of the press in any democracy. So I support the PAJ in its position regarding any threats to these rights. For example, disclosure of sources. I'm throwing that out to you for your serious consideration. Please follow the discourse online on many media platforms about this particular issue. And as you do so, I encourage you to reflect on what is happening in some other countries. We enjoy a very high level of freedom of the press in Jamaica. And some of us take it for granted. Oh, you take it for granted because you can go on social media and talk and talk and talk and talk. But there's more to freedom of press and freedom of expression than that. So I'm encouraging us all to take this very seriously. Next. Okay, the Constitution also speaks to the right of everyone to protection from search of the person and property, and respect for protection of private and family life, and privacy of the home, and protection of other property and of communication. Privacy of the home. In other words, in simple language, our private family business is of interest to nobody else, nor is the information concerning that family business. Next. That last right is related to this I found on the website, which notes that DNA, political affiliation, and sexual orientation will not be collected. That's very, very private, family, personal information, all three of those things. Therefore, such information is specifically omitted from the data collection and storage process. That to me is a serious benefit. Next. So, the ultimate test, I think, is to ensure that the system as designed, remember it passed unless the bill was already passed in Parliament with multiple amendments, thankfully, whether this system will lead to the efficient enforcement of the legislation and build trust and confidence of the general public. That to me is very important. Trust and confidence of the general public. And I say that because the trust relates not only to the national, the authority itself, but related to it also signifies the kinds of relationships that that authority now has to have with all the other agencies from which it is going to extract information. I think citizens need accurate, adequate information to be able to make informed choices and decisions about the system. What do I mean by that? If my memory serves me correctly, it identifies very clearly what biometric information you shall provide, that word shall. In the next paragraph it says, other information may be required. And then it refers to some other more, I guess we could call it controversial, sensitive issues like retina information, fingerprinting, and all that kind of things. That kind of information needs to be widely known, that the difference between shall and may and what it means. It has implications for us as citizens if it may be required. Under what conditions may it be required? That is what I'm talking about when I say accurate and adequate information. And I'm arguing that there is much, much work to be done in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wedderburn. I think the civil society considerations have been adequately represented by Edith in her interventions, particularly relating to citizens' rights and protections as provided in our basic law and in related documentation. So thank you very much. We are going to enter now into the dialogue with the panel. I just wanted to say that in planning this event and this particular session, we invited a representative of the NIDS team and engaged in a correspondence and dialogue. In the end, they indicated that no team member would be available to attend. I still don't quite understand that, but we took the decision that we must proceed because this is the country's business and we have a large and interested audience of what we need to be talking about in this particular case. I have to say, in all fairness, that we did have the pleasure of the Minister of National Security attending and opening the conference. And he made the very important point that while the government would be proceeding with the provisions related to biometrics and with data gathering and so on, whether it is through the cameras or through the NIDS system, every effort would be made not to infringe the rights of citizens in that process. So we are trying to identify that as one of the commitments against which this conversation will take place. And we were very happy that Dr. Chang was able to come. But we are now going to open the conversation. Persons are free to raise their points. We ask you to do so from the microphone there in the usual way by identifying yourself, making your observation or question as brief and as precise as possible, and if possible, directed to a member of the panel.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Morning, panel. I'm Damian Donaldson, President of ISACA Kingston Chapter. I would like to ask Carlton, you had mentioned in your presentation that the needs would be or not going to be exempted from complying with the data protection legislation when it comes on stream. I'm observing that in the NIDS Act, there does seem to be provisions for security and the requirement for adequate security protocols and arrangements to be made as far as the NIDS database and so on is concerned. And I understand from information coming out of the NIDS team that those provisions were put in place to ensure that even though the data protection legislation was not yet on stream, that there would be adequate provisions made from a legislative standpoint for NIDS so that they would be able to implement everything in the right way and address all the security concerns and would be ready for the data protection legislation when it comes on stream. So my question then is this. If it is that NIDS is going to be subject to the data protection legislation that's going to come on stream, what does that mean for citizens who wish to opt out of NIDS? Under the data protection legislation, for entities that collect information on citizens, the citizens have right under the Act to query, what information do you have for me? And they may also request that that information be deleted or that processing of that information be stopped. If NIDS is going to be governed by the data protection legislation, how does that work for citizens who don't want to provide the information or who wish to opt out and so on?
Okay, so Section 40 of the Act does give the citizen the right to know what is kept in the NIDS database. Section 40 of the Act already established that. And you're right in saying that if there is no, if NIDS does not get a pass on the Data Protection Act, then the opt-out situation becomes a little bit challenging. There's a fine that is associated with you not giving the act. But in my view, you can make you can plead forbearance in the regulations, which are not yet in place. So I personally would expect that the regulations that are coming, that have to come before we go into production, will make some kind of forbearance arrangement. Forbearance simply means that the law says this, but the regulation says, as we understand what it says, but in this situation we will not enforce the law as it stands. So that's one option that's available, that the regulation might itself come on stream with a forbearance clause. That's one thing. If you look at 42, Section 42, which tells you about the requirement, is a broad requirement for security, and it says that the authority shall make every effort to secure the data and so on. I also believe that the regulations, when they're written, would go into details about what should happen. And again, that's another area where you might have the regulation say something slightly different. That's my hope. And if I were involved in implementing it, that would be what I would be recommending at the moment.
Okay.
And that is short of having some amendment in the law based on the discussions that are going on now.
Okay. As with all questions, any other member of the panel wants to comment on any particular question, please feel free to do so. You can just indicate and I'll recognize you. In the meantime, the focus is on your questions from the audience. So, please proceed.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Gunjan Mansingh, Head of Computing at UE. So my question is to any one of you. So I think it was nice to see that all of you agree that NIDS is important. We need to have a national ID system. The issue is the use of it. And to get a properly electronic digital society, we need to make sure that this data doesn't just sit in an ivory tower for the government use, but it is used for, by other members of the society too. And you touched briefly on it, Carlton, about the uses of it, but I'm still not sure how the uses will occur. And so, it's like, is there a mechanism to really look at it from a country's perspective, or is it only for government social policing perspective? And Judith had spoken about, a person coming to an hospital, and we often find that if we look at it from a social policing thing, it looks like something, something very terrible. But if a patient comes to a hospital, and this is an example my husband always gives, that we don't need to then look for a card, we just have the ID, and even the patient is unconscious, you can identify who the person is and probably give them the appropriate, charge mechanism. So if somebody, rather than making it look like a Dracula, why don't we make it look like as if it's something done for the society, for the good of people? If you don't need to produce a card. It's rather beneficial to you if you have it. And so my first question is with the other societies, how that data sharing will occur, because most of the breaches arise when you need it for opening a bank account, you need it for getting a phone. And Hopton touched on it. We were even in India, they had the Aadhaar, which is a big biometric, and the person who came up with it actually put his card, put his number online and say, do what you want to do with it. It was his arrogance, of course. And his bank accounts and everything were linked to it, and they could do 1 rupee transfers to show that, yes, a lot could be done if your number is just known to people. So I think we have to really focus on the uses, and if any one of you have that information, it would be useful.
You can offer a comment if you want to, Carlton, and then we perhaps bank 2 questions, and then take them in batches.
So Section 42 and 43 of the Act speaks to the sharing of information. It has restrictions on how you share biometric information. The Act goes to say that unless you have a court order or some reasonable exercise, then you can't share certain information in the database. But the identity as a service is one of the contemplations of how you might use it. This is to say, a private entity may actually have you in front, like you go to a hospital, you don't have a card, but you are actually in the act. Then the NIDS might provide a service where you could be identified by making a request, by that entity making a request to have you, but because you give consent. So consent is always required. And this is one of the areas where it could be very useful that you have an identity as a service kind of component, where based on your consent, on the person's consent, then a third party could request information that could be used from the authority. So that is contemplated as one good use for it. You spoke to one other thing, the issue of the breach in the security at the request interface. And one of the things that is contemplated in the process is that those who would be asking for information, even with your consent, they would have to undergo a background check, and they would have to submit to certain standards by the authority in order to get information about the person, even with your consent. So I know that is contemplated as part of the NIDS.
Morning, everyone. Andre Rooks, Information Security Analyst. Just a clarification I needed. I heard that the NIRA is not a part of, is not a government entity, and the fact that government entities are exempt from, I think yesterday, exempt from prosecution under the Data Protection Act. I just need a clarification on that aspect.
The part of the discussion within the Joint Select Committee was on data protection was to determine which entities should be exempt. The current bill has some wide-scale exemptions, which a number of persons have raised objections to. There are some that we would be supportive of, for example, national security, justice. There are some areas that you could possibly exempt, but the wide-scale proposed exemptions are troublesome to some of us. And again, that's part of the reason why it's important to complete the debate on the bill so that we can have an act which incorporates the concerns of the broadest cross-section of our society. But as we stand right now, there's no act. We're still in the process of debating that bill, and I don't know when we're going to resume that. Data protection act.
He asked about whether NERA is a government agency. Well, right as the law now stands, it would be an agency within the Office of the Prime Minister. The NERA itself, the authority, is going to be an agency within the Office of the Prime Minister, so definitely is a government entity.
Yes.
Before we take the next question, I'd like to thank Dr. Sorry I didn't get your name. Mansing, for your question. The challenge, Doctor, is that Jamaica is a very, very heterogeneous society. And I feel, certainly some of us feel, that many of our citizens, there are unreasonable assumptions about their ability to function in a situation like this. So, we are an aging population, yes, and there are women and men who are going to be around for another 10, 20 years who really have not been supported in understanding how they will benefit from a NIDS and don't feel that they need a NIDS. They need to go to their health clinic and get their prescription. And so I caution against assuming that it will work for everybody. What bothers me is the absence of choice. And if you're not able to choose, as the Chief Justice said, I'm paraphrasing, it's your action by not giving the information is criminalized. Thankfully, the fine was reduced, but I still think that it is dangerous because I think we're contributing to a discussion about an us and them who can't afford to do many things, certainly not pay the fine. So I think we need to have a very fulsome and honest discussion about how NIDS is going to affect different sections of our society differently. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, please. Good afternoon, Professor John. I'm glad we started this morning. We spoke about the Indian Aadhaar system, which is one of the biggest, it is the biggest NIDS system that we have on the world right now. And it's taught us a lot about it. Dr. Mansing mentioned it yesterday. I'm glad you came back this morning because I was going to start by what you said yesterday. So we have people who know about what happened in India, and it's great, but they also made many great mistakes with the Indian system that we all know in Jamaica, but we seem to be going diametrically opposed to those things and not learning from what happened in India. That's the first question. And that's more to the legislation. And from the technical point of view, Mr. Samuels, right now, we are trying to implement an IT system at twice the price. It's a Generation 1 national ID system at twice the price of a Generation 3 IT system that we could do now, right? Please explain that to me. We could save half of that money, implement in a much shorter time. And lastly, back to what Dr. Mansing was saying, we should try to incentivize the system rather than criminalize the system. Let people want to get onto NIDS. I would have a model where they're paying for that card because they can see the benefits, but not criminalize. It's not going to work. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Courtney Johnson.
Just before you do, I just wondered whether you wanted to, since the president has been so pointed.
So I'm speaking from my understanding of what is happening right now. They have a system that I believe the user definitions were well thought out. They have designed for a system that I don't believe it's generation 1 at all. It's further advanced than that. There are two issues. There are a couple of issues that I couldn't speak to right now in detail about the difference between how the RDAR in India is implemented and what the proposal is for implementation of NIDS here in Jamaica. The major difference is the public key infrastructure difference. There's a big difference between that. It also is looking at implementing so that you can cohabitate with other systems. So, for example, the e-passport system. That is based on PKI. The ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, they're the ones who set the standards for that. You will have access to the public key database, so you can have data sharing compacts around that. That is a big issue with any identification system, how you share data and the terms and conditions in which you share data. I agree with you that I would be not, I am more inclined for a system that is more beneficial and not criminalized. And it could be useful to look at KYC and AML type incentives to enable the development of the systems. KYC, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering. I mean, almost all of us with a bank card here have subjected ourselves to KYC and AML. When Scotiabank, I cuss them every time. I'm the same person, and every time I do something, I have to tell them myself again. I have to reintroduce myself to them. So those are not new things, but there are choices that were made, and I'm not au fait with all of the rationale for the choices that were made. But I can say, based on what I have reviewed and looked at, the infrastructure and the design of the system does address some, almost all of the security concerns that I would have in designing a system such as that. That is much as I can say right now.
Okay, all right. We can come back to that. Please go ahead.
There is a hearing issue, so perhaps you might have said this before. I would like to, let's say, have a card. If I have a card, I'd like to release what I would like to release on it and conceal what I would like to have on that card. Either one card or multiple cards. I'm not a techie or anything, right? But just commonsensically, that's how I would operate. So does the system allow for that you are able to release what you want to release and conceal what you want to conceal, either on a single card with a single or multiple cards? That's my question.
From what I know of the design, the card will have, the data set on the card will include a picture and some biometric data on the card itself. Some of it will be visible and readable to you. Other parts of it will be machine readable only. So in the instance where you have a machine that can read the card, you would have access to all of the data that is on the card. But you still have opportunities to shield some of that data from ordinary use. So for example, the biometric data could be pinned, so you have to have another access code to get on that data. That's one thing. But the card that you get itself will have a set of information called the data set, the card data set, that will be encoded on that card. Some of it is visible to you by eye, Others you can only read from machine.
No, not so much. Let's say I go to an entity, government entity, and I only want to release, let's say it has 10 bits of information on it, and I want to release ABCF. Do I have that option?
No.
Okay, so you got a straight answer, right? Doesn't have that level of.
So I want that
dynamic
level of flexibility.
Right.
That's what I am saying.
Yes. Okay. Well, your question and point has been noted. Right? I want to ask why the other. Thank you. While the other question is coming forward, Carlton, could you address the question of multiple forms of ID now being in the possession of members of the population? Electoral card, the passport, which is a special document. Right? But how will the ID system now affect other forms of identification being utilized by citizens at the moment?
Well, if you look at the objective of the NIMS is to have a single ID for multiple purposes. That's the whole idea. So you would have made most of these for identification. Passport is used for other things, you know. A driver's license is used for other things. You still have a driver's license and a passport. The thing is that for authentication of your identity, you have this one card. Okay? Now, there are systems that are built around other identities. For example, the electoral system, we have the clearance system, we have the data, the credit card systems, for example. They use amalgamation of all of these sources to have inside it. But the NIDS itself is intended to be a single point for authentication of identity. That is the principal rule of this.
Okay. Although at the moment it's the electoral or the passport that a lot of people are using, and a lot of institutions are accepting. But I understand you're saying it's going in the direction of now having one.
And then decide, I don't like the way this is progressing. Am I allowed to retract? How will that be facilitated? And furthermore, I understand that this card will connect me to a lot of other organizations. Can I then apply my right to be forgotten to some organizations and not to others?
Okay.
And I have a secondary question after.
Okay, but could you identify yourself, by the way?
Oh, sorry. My name is Lawyer Horton.
Okay, great. Do you want to pose the other question?
Sure. Recently, well, dependent on how you define recently, the TRN system was introduced. So we have unique identifiers. Why are we then discarding this system, which took time and effort to build, and then coming up with new numbers? What then happens to that data system that we created and we're trying to enforce?
Okay. All right. So we'll ask you to respond, and we are perhaps at the point where we can only take one or two other questions. So if anybody else has a pressing question, I know there is one person waiting, but we are going right up to the line. So if one other person is willing, apart from the person who is in line, persons who are in line, then this is your opportunity, but we'll be cutting off after that.
So, Section 34 of the Act does allow you to surrender or revoke your national ID. And it is linked to registrability. Under the law right now, you are registrable if you are a national, a citizen, or you remain more than 6 months in Jamaica, right? So you're national, that means you have a birth certificate. That is why the Registrar General Department, who's the keep of the record, is so important to that. As a citizenship, that is the passport and immigration people, PICA. And so those are the instruments for registrability. You can declare that you don't wish any longer to be a citizen of Jamaica, and therefore you don't have standing to be registered. And therefore it could cause the revocation of your card. Or you could be a resident and you're leaving Jamaica, and then you can revoke your card under those conditions. So there is that, and there's processes built in for you to revoke and surrender the card. That I know. Yes, as it is at the moment, the law allows for fees, but again, the regulations are not yet written and in force, so the regulations may take a different turn. That is possible. You might have forbearance. So that's the answer to those questions.
Okay, all right, thank you. We'll take our final question.
My name is Yvonne Macala-Sobers. Governments have deficits in trust, and particularly when it relates to human rights. And we can find any number of examples right now. So therefore, my data is personal, my data is mine. That's my understanding of the principle. In the same way as the money in my credit card account is mine. I notice that the bank, certainly my bank, is now indicating to me every time there has been a credit card transaction, so that I can assess, is this something which is legitimate or not? So my question is, will I have that same privilege should I choose to give my information, which is mine, based on the fact that I don't trust who I'm giving it to? But will I be able to see each time there has been any access to my data? That's what I want to know.
But
is that the case?
If you're saying the blockchain, is it on an individual basis? So my access level will be on an individual level, so I can access that blockchain? Because from my understanding of blockchain, it's a public domain where you see the different points.
Yes, let me explain. The logging of the data is to log access to the database. So every time the database is read, you will see that you will get a notation to say, somebody mentioned the fact of a credit card alert.
Who is seeing that on that blockchain? Who is accessing it?
Administrators, and it will be publicly available. So there are distributed databases that you could. There's no identifying data that you will see on that database, on that log. There's no identifying that you could say is yours and uniquely yours. You will see a block that is addressed, and you will have understanding of who is addressing it. So I don't believe that the intent is to have that kind of discrete detail of access recorded. Not at all. I don't believe that. But you will have enough information to rest assured that you will know who's accessing data from what agency and for what purpose. The question of whether or not you would be individually alerted, I cannot answer that, because that was not a part of the design. Like the credit card alert, I understand what the person was saying. Every time my credit card is used, Sagicor, one of them, send me a SMS record to say that you've made this transaction, is it a good transaction, and so on. The design as it is today does not have that detail feature.
All right.
Thank you. And you did say that consent has to be given for release of information, so that I'm comforted with. So I...
Yes.
Yes. And the questions are legitimate questions because it's part for answers. And a forum like this can enhance knowledge levels, even if not trust and confidence, at least knowledge, so that before I wind the panel down and make a few concluding remarks about the conference. I see Judith wanting to make one.
Is that you may, but there are conditions. You will have...
I believe, from what I know of the design and the implementation plans, I believe that we can have a system that is as secure as we can make it. It is important to understand that the system is also going to interact with other systems such as e-passport and e-gate systems that are required. I believe that there is still an opportunity to address some of the concerns that we have, that civil society and so on, in terms of justiciable rights in regulation and at the implementation phase. I truly believe that it can be accommodated. Thank you.
Okay. And I just want to ask you to thank the members of the panel for their responsibility. It's a conversation that's going to continue, and it is a conversation that's going to be also dependent on determinations by the court. It's a conversation that's going to be affected by what Mrs. McCullough-Sobers calls this element of trust, because that is the element that will make people deal with it with a measure of confidence or not, as the case may be. We should inform ourselves as much as possible on the available information and keep the dialogue going. So, colleagues, we are at the end of another cybersecurity conference, the number 6th one, and many of you have accompanied us through many of them. And those of you who are either coming for the first time or have come at different stages in the process, we very much welcome your participation. It's a conference about public education. It's a conference about an outward-facing university and departments engaging with citizens about the kinds of issues that matter. So I'm happy to be associated with it, and I thank you for your continued engagement also with it. We are going to be taking a look to see what enhancements we can make to this conference. We have had some suggestions already made, for example, that there should be an interim one or some kind of interim consultation where we can think and talk about some things other than from November to November. Of course, there are other conferences and other events taking place, but this particular one may wish to invoke an interim conversation or conference, depending on what support we can engender. We have had the benefit and support of a number of partners and a number of our sponsors. NCB continues to be our lead sponsor. We have other sponsors, including Henlin Gibson Henlin, the Spanish Court Hotel. We have partners, including the International Telecommunications Union, ISOC, among others. You can see on the board Canada the resources that we have been able to call upon. It is these resources that have enabled us to not have you pay for the privilege of attending this conference. And so we are very grateful for the support that we have and the decisions that we have taken. I want to extend my own thanks to members of the team that have been active in supporting the conference. Some of them are in the room, others are in the vicinity of the room, but can we just give a round of applause to the entire team of people that have been able to do this with us. We will be in touch through the website in relation to the usual content that you will find there, namely a 10-pointer or so summary of the key conclusions out of the 2 days of this conference. Secondly, the rapporteur's report, giving a more detailed account of every single session. And thirdly, all the presentations that have been made here that have been put in the form of a PowerPoint presentation. So you can look forward to that. Some will be available more earlier than others, but we are committed. Currently on the site, we have most of that information for the 5 conferences so far. So we are also building up that database and making sure that you can access it. So once again, we are going to be thanking you and concluding this event in the hope that you can join us on the next occasion, and we'll be announcing that date. Thanks again.